The morning after the funeral, the house felt too quiet. My cousins and I had stayed the night in grandmother's old farmhouse, partly out of duty, partly because none of us wanted to be alone. The kitchen still smelled faintly of cinnamon and mothballs, a mix of her apple pies and the cedar chest she always kept by the window. It was my cousin Daniel who found the drawer. We were sorting through the desk in her study, a heavy oak thing with brass handles that had gone dull with time. Most of the drawers slid open easily, filled with unpaid bills, knitting needles, and half-finished crossword puzzles. But the bottom left one wouldn't budge. "Locked," Daniel muttered, giving it a tug. Of course, that made all of us stop what we were doing. A locked drawer always meant secrets. "Check the sewing kit," I suggested. Grandmother always kept odd little keys tucked into pin cushions and button tins. And sure enough, after 10 minutes of rummaging, my sister Marissa came back triumphant, holding up a tiny brass key. The lock clicked open with a sound that sent shivers down my arms. Inside were bundles of envelopes, stacked neatly in rows, tied with faded ribbons. On each envelope, in grandmother's spidery handwriting, was a number, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 100. We just stared at them. "Letters," Marissa whispered. 100 of them. The first was dated 1962, long before any of us were born. The last one was stamped just a month before she passed away. Each one sealed tight, unopened even by her. But here was the strange part, every envelope had 2 names. One on the front, one on the back. The first letter, for example, said, "To Margaret," on the front and, if undelivered, "Give to Sarah," on the back. The second one said, "To Anthony/ if undelivered, give to Daniel." The pattern was clear, every letter had a backup recipient. "What does that even mean?" Daniel asked. No one had an answer. We opened the first letter. Inside was a simple piece of stationery, but the words written on it made my stomach flip. "Margaret, if you are reading this, then you must already know the truth about your father. He was not the man everyone said he was. There are people still looking for what he left behind. If you find the blue key, keep it hidden. Trust no one, not even your brothers." The room went silent. Blue key? People looking? Not even your brothers? Marissa whispered, "What the hell was Grandma mixed up in?" And just like that, the 100 letters stopped being keepsakes. They became a map, one we weren't sure we wanted to follow. We couldn't stop talking about the blue key. It had been written in the very first letter, like some kind of test we were supposed to pass. Daniel swore he'd once seen something like it in grandmother's china cabinet when we were kids, but Marissa said he was probably confusing it with a glass paperweight. Still, we tore the house apart. Every drawer, every shoebox, every forgotten tin of buttons. No blue key. Then, around midnight, I went into the pantry for water. That's when I noticed it, the old spice rack, the one grandmother never let anyone touch. It had been nailed to the wall for decades, filled with jars that hadn't been opened since the 80s. I reached up to dust one, and the entire wooden rack shifted. Behind it was a shallow cavity in the wall. Inside was a velvet pouch. The key was real. Painted cobalt blue, delicate as jewelry, with a number etched into its base, 47. I carried it to the kitchen table where the others were still sprawled out with letters. Marissa gasped. Daniel just muttered, "Holy shit." The next few envelopes gave us more context. One letter, addressed to Anthony, said, "The blue key is not for the house. It's not for the safe deposit box. It's for the locker. If Isabel still has the claim ticket, she will know what to do." Isabel. That was grandmother's real name, something we'd only just discovered. But what locker? Where? The next clue came in letter 7, dated 1973. "They've followed me since Havana. Leo thinks the money is gone, but he's wrong. The locker will prove it. If anything happens to me, use the blue key. But don't trust the police." By now, my hands were shaking as I read. Havana? Money? Don't trust the police? This wasn't just family secrets, this was starting to sound like organized crime. Daniel, of course, wanted to drive straight to Fisherman's Credit Union with the blue key and demand answers. Marissa and I shut him down. If Grandma had gone through so much trouble to hide this, it wasn't as simple as waltzing into a bank. And then we noticed something chilling. Letter 10, dated 1980, addressed to Margaret. If they find this, they'll come for the grandchildren first. Especially the boy. Don't let Daniel anywhere near the locker. We all froze. Daniel stared at me, pale, the blue key glinting between us. Why me? He whispered. None of us had an answer. But suddenly, it didn't feel safe to keep the letters in the house anymore. The car across the street idled too long. Daniel squinted at it, muttering, tinted windows. Who the hell just sits there after a funeral? We tried to act casual, heading toward my car, but the moment we pulled out of the driveway, the other engine roared to life. It followed. Not close enough to be obvious, but not far enough to be innocent either. Marissa clutched the map against her chest. This is insane. What if Uncle Leo knows we found the letters? What if that's him? Leo doesn't drive a Chevy, Daniel shot back. That's not his style. We took back roads, winding through the old part of town. Every time I checked the mirror, the Chevy was there. Finally, I pulled into the grocery store lot, parked, and waited. The Chevy slid past and kept going. My heart hammered until it turned the corner and vanished. Inside the store cafe, we spread the map on the table. The X wasn't far. Just behind the cemetery, in the lot where the strip mall now stood. What had been a field in Grandma's day was now asphalt and neon signs, pharmacy, laundromat, pawn shop. Not exactly easy to dig, Marissa whispered. Daniel traced the lines with his finger. Look, this path. It runs from the cemetery fence straight to the X. What if it's still there? A trail or marker? We didn't realize how loud we'd gotten until a voice behind us said, "What's that you've got there?" We all froze. It was Uncle Leo. He stood there in his black funeral suit, holding a basket of apples, smiling like he had every right to be part of the conversation. His eyes flicked from the map to the key bulging faintly in my pocket. Your grandmother loved puzzles, he said smoothly. But you kids shouldn't burden yourselves with her games. Leave it to me. Marissa folded the map so fast it nearly tore. It's just old drawings, she said quickly. Leo's smile didn't falter. But his eyes sharpened. Don't waste your time chasing ghosts. He set the basket down, leaned closer, and added in a low voice, and don't dig where you don't belong. Then he walked out, just like that. We didn't move for a long time. When I finally looked down at the table, there was something new on the map. A small smear of apple wax, faint but deliberate, right over the number 47. The same number etched into the blue key. We decided to go at night. Daniel was the one who said it first, if we wait, Leo will get there before us. None of us argued. By midnight, the town was quiet, the streets half-lit by buzzing lamps. We parked behind the laundromat, killed the headlights, and crept toward the spot marked by Grandmother's map. The air smelled of detergent and fryer grease from the 24-hour diner next door. The X fell in the narrow strip between the cemetery fence and the back wall of the pawn shop. The ground there was uneven, gravel mixed with patches of dirt. Daniel knelt down, brushing his hand across the earth. This used to be a field, he whispered. They paved over most of it, but not this part. We dug with what we had, an old tire iron from my trunk, a broken board from the dumpster, our bare hands. For 20 minutes, nothing but rocks and dirt. My fingernails were packed with soil, my arms burning, when Marissa hit something solid. It was a box. Metal, rusted, about the size of a shoebox. Daniel yanked it free, breathless. The lock on the front was corroded but unmistakable, shaped exactly for the blue key. My heart pounded as I pulled it from my pocket and slid it into place. The lock clicked like it had just been waiting. Inside were papers. Dozens of them, folded and yellowed, tied with another ribbon. And under the stack, a velvet pouch. Heavier than it looked. I opened it, and nearly dropped it. Gold coins. Old ones, stamped with years from the 1950s and markings I didn't recognize. Marissa's voice shook. "How much do you think this is worth?" "Enough for someone to kill over," Daniel muttered. That's when we heard the crunch of footsteps. We froze, clutching the box. A beam of light swept across the alley, catching the chain-link fence. Leo's voice. "Calm. Too calm. I told you not to dig." We bolted. Daniel slammed the box shut, tucked it under his arm, and we sprinted toward the car. Gravel scattered under our shoes, our breath ragged. Behind us, Leo shouted, but not to us. To someone else. 2 more flashlights cut across the lot. Not just Leo. He'd brought people. We barely made it to the car, skidding into the seats, tires squealing as we pulled out. In the rearview, I saw the 3 of them standing in the lot, watching. Not chasing, just watching. Daniel clutched the box to his chest like it was part of him. Marissa's face was pale. If Grandma went this far to hide it, what else is in those letters? I didn't answer. Because in my lap, one of the folded papers had slipped loose from the box. On it, in Grandmother's precise script, were just 5 words. "Do not trust your uncle." Back at the farmhouse, we bolted the doors and pulled the curtains tight. Daniel set the metal box on the kitchen table like it was radioactive. For a while, none of us spoke. The only sound was the clock ticking on the wall, louder than it had ever sounded before. Finally, Marissa untied the ribbon around the stack of folded papers. "If Grandma risked hiding these," she whispered, "then we have to know." The first paper wasn't a letter at all. It was a list. Names, dates, and numbers scrawled in columns. Some of the names were familiar: old neighbors, parish priests, even the mayor from the 70s. Next to each name were amounts of money, written in U.S. dollars and Cuban pesos. Daniel frowned. "This looks like payoffs." The second paper confirmed it. A letter dated 1965, written in Spanish and English, alternating line by line. Grandmother wrote about the money from Havana, about funds smuggled out before the fall, and about a man named Coronel Varela who would never stop looking. Marissa's hands shook as she translated aloud. She wasn't just protecting money. She was protecting herself from some military officer. The next letter chilled me more. Dated 1982. Leo thinks he is owed. He does not understand that this money is dangerous. It is blood money, stained with lives taken in Havana. If the gold is ever found, it must be used only for the grandchildren's escape, never for greed. Daniel's face darkened. Escape from what? We kept digging. One letter, written in the 90s, mentioned a bank account in Switzerland. Another hinted at documents proving who betrayed us in Cuba. But the last one we read that night made my stomach turn. If you are reading this, then Leo has found you. Do not give him the gold. He is not who you think he is. He was never my son by blood. The room went silent. Daniel slammed his fist on the table. What the hell does that mean? He's our uncle. He has to be. But the handwriting was unmistakable. Grandmother's. Marissa whispered, what if he's not? What if he was planted? Someone's child, raised to get close to her? We stared at the gold, the letters, the names in the ledger. Suddenly it all felt too big for us, too dangerous. And then, as if the house itself was listening, the phone rang. No one moved. It rang again. And again. Finally, Daniel picked it up. His face went pale. He didn't say a word, just listened. Then he hung up, trembling. It was Leo, he said. He told me, you've opened the box. Now you're part of it. None of us slept that night. Every creak of the farmhouse felt like a warning. Daniel wanted to storm over to Leo's house and make him talk. Marissa talked him down. If Grandma was scared of him for 50 years, what makes you think we can just demand answers? Instead, we spread the letters across the floor like a crime board. The name that kept surfacing was Coronel Varela. The way Grandmother wrote about him, fearful, but always respectful, made him feel like a shadow still looming over us. I grabbed my laptop. If he was a Cuban officer, there's gotta be something online. At first, nothing. Then, buried in old archives, we found a grainy black and white photo. Colonel Raul Varela, Cuban military, defected in 1961. Rumored ties to U.S. intelligence during the Cold War. Then he disappeared. Marissa leaned closer. Wait. Disappeared where? The article said he'd last been spotted in Florida, later rumored to have blended into Miami's Cuban exile community. But the kicker? A scanned FBI document labeled him as suspected of laundering stolen gold reserves through family intermediaries. Family intermediaries. My blood ran cold. Daniel slammed a letter down. That's it. That's what Grandma was. She didn't just bring money out of Cuba, she smuggled his. Letter 41 confirmed it. Varela believed the gold was his. But it was never his to keep. It was taken from the people. I carried it to protect us, but he will hunt it until his death. Daniel whispered, if she smuggled his gold, then Leo might not just be greedy, Marissa finished. He could be working for them. For whatever's left of Varela's people. I wanted to argue, but it fit too well. The secrecy, the warnings, the ledger of names that looked more like accomplices than victims. Then I found something worse. A recent article. A local obituary. Raul Varela, 92, passed away quietly last month, surrounded by family in Tampa, Florida. Family. The photo in the obituary stopped my breath. Standing beside the old man's coffin was a man in a dark suit, head bowed. Even in the blurry print, the profile was unmistakable. It was Leo. We stared at the screen, silent. Daniel muttered, he wasn't at some random hotel after the funeral. He was in Florida. At Varela's side. Marissa whispered what we were all thinking, he's not just our uncle. He's Varela's heir. And then the farmhouse lights flickered. Once. Twice. The power cut out completely. Through the kitchen window, a pair of headlights swept across the yard. They weren't alone anymore. The blackout dropped the house into pitch-dark silence. No hum of the refrigerator. No ticking from the old wall clock. Just our breathing. Daniel's hand went straight to the box of gold. We run, he hissed. But Marissa grabbed his arm. If we bolt now, we'll run right into them. Whoever's out there knows we're here. The headlights cut across the window again. Then the car door slammed. Heavy footsteps crunched over the gravel path leading up to the porch. My pulse hammered in my ears. Every instinct screamed to hide, but some part of me knew hiding wouldn't matter. Whoever had found us wasn't going away. The front door rattled, then a sharp knock. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks again. Not random. A signal. Marissa whispered, don't open it. But Daniel was already moving, fists clenched, ready to fight. I grabbed his arm. Think. Grandma warned us. If it's Leo, he's not here to talk. Before we could decide, a voice came through the door. Hoarse, accented, but not Leo's. Isabel's grandchildren. I mean you no harm. The 3 of us froze. The voice continued, your grandmother and I were friends once, before the war made enemies of us all. My name is Mateo Varela. Varela. My throat went dry. He went on, Raul was my brother. He is dead now. And your uncle, if you can still call him that, he is not what you think. I came to warn you before he claims what does not belong to him. Daniel whispered, he's lying. He has to be. But Marissa's face was pale. What if he isn't? He could be the only one who knows the truth. I stepped closer to the door. If you're really Mateo, prove it. There was a pause. Then we heard the scrape of paper sliding under the door. I bent down. It was a photograph, old and faded. Our grandmother, young, laughing, standing in front of a Havana cafe. Beside her, a man in uniform. Not Raúl. A different man, softer eyes, arm draped casually around her shoulder. On the back, in her handwriting, to my dear friend Mateo, 1957. My stomach flipped. Outside, his voice lowered. She trusted me once. I ask you to trust me now. The gold must never fall into Leo's hands. He is not your blood. He is Raúl's son, raised for this purpose alone. The porch creaked. Silence. By the time we opened the door, the yard was empty. No car. No footsteps. Just the photograph in my hand, smelling faintly of tobacco and dust. Marissa whispered, he found us once. He'll find us again. Daniel stared at the box of gold. Then maybe we stop waiting. Maybe we go to him first. We argued until dawn. Daniel wanted to use the gold as bait. We set a trap. Make Leo show his hand. Marissa shook her head. That's suicide. If Mateo's telling the truth, he's the only one who actually knows what's going on. We need answers before we end up buried next to Grandma. In the end, we sided with her. The photograph had a clue we almost missed. In the bottom corner, barely visible, was a hand-painted sign on the cafe wall, El Malecon, Havana. On the back, scrawled faintly under Grandma's handwriting, was something newer, meet me where she first wrote my name. M. We searched the letters again. Letter 12, dated 1968, addressed to Mateo, opened with, I write your name here in secret, because Raúl would kill us both if he knew. That letter had been written on stationery from Street Dominic's Chapel, the little stone church on the edge of town. Where she first wrote his name, I murmured. The chapel. That night, we drove there. The chapel was long abandoned, windows boarded, vines curling up the stone. We parked a block away, hearts pounding. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and dust. Pews cracked with age. A faint glow flickered at the altar, candlelight. And there he was. Mateo. Older now, stooped, his once dark hair silver. He didn't flinch when we entered. Instead, he raised both hands, palms empty. You came, he said softly. Marissa clutched the box tighter. Why should we trust you? Because Raúl lied to all of us, Mateo said. His voice cracked with age and regret. Your grandmother loved him once, but he used her. She smuggled his gold, thinking it was for the people. In truth, it was stolen from them. When she discovered this, she tried to return it. That's why he sent Leo. Sent him? Daniel asked. Mateo nodded. Leo is Raúl's son. Born of another woman, raised to infiltrate your family. Isabel raised him as her own to protect you from Raúl's reach. She hoped he would grow into something better. But blood is stubborn. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. So what happens now? Mateo's gaze dropped to the box. Now you must decide. Keep it, and Leo will never stop hunting you. Destroy it, and the blood debt may finally end. But there is another path. Before he could finish, glass shattered at the back of the chapel. Flashlights cut through the dark. Leo's voice, sharp and cold, handed over. Now. Mateo's candle sputtered, throwing his shadow tall across the altar. For the first time, I saw fear in the old man's eyes. The chapel erupted in chaos. Flashlights swept the pews, boots thundered against stone, and Leo's voice cut through it all. Give me the box, and maybe you live. Daniel lunged toward the back door, but Leo's men blocked it. Marissa clutched the box of gold so tightly her knuckles went white. My instinct screamed to run, but Mateo's voice snapped me back. Not the gold, he hissed. The letters. That's what he really wants. In that split second, everything made sense. The gold was valuable, sure, but the letters? They were proof. Records of stolen wealth, payoffs, and betrayals that could ruin entire families still alive today. Leo didn't want riches. He wanted silence. I shoved the stack of letters into my backpack just as Leo stormed down the aisle, gun glinting in his hand. Put it down, he growled at Marissa. That box belongs to me. Mateo stepped between them, frail but defiant. It never belonged to Raul. It was stolen. Isabel carried that shame her whole life. Leo sneered. And what will you do, old man? Die in a church? Daniel moved first, hurling a broken pew plank at Leo. It cracked against the floor, distracting him just long enough for Marissa to shove the box under the altar. I grabbed Mateo's arm, yanking him toward the side door. We ran. The sound of gunfire cracked through the chapel, splintering wood, echoing in my chest. We didn't stop until we stumbled into the graveyard behind the church, lungs burning. Mateo bent against a headstone, wheezing. She left you one last gift, he said. Did you find it? What gift? I panted. He gestured weakly toward my backpack. The 100th letter. I pulled it out, letter 100, the one postmarked for next year, 2026. My hands shook as I tore it open. Inside was a single line, written in grandmother's elegant script. If Leo lives, you will never be free. But if the truth lives, you will. And beneath the words, a key. Not blue this time, but silver. Etched with the number 100. Mateo's eyes filled with tears. The silver key. She kept it hidden even from Raul. It opens a vault in Switzerland. Not gold, not jewels, documents. Proof of everything he did. The truth he feared more than death. Suddenly, headlights swept across the cemetery. Leo's men had followed. Mateo grabbed my wrist, his voice urgent. Take the key. Take the letters. Bury the gold if you must. But don't let Raul's lies die with you. Before I could answer, Leo's shout rang out again. Run all you want, you can't escape blood. But he was wrong. Because in that moment, clutching the silver key and the last of grandmother's secrets, I realized something. This wasn't just her fight anymore. It was ours. And we weren't running anymore.